At the beginning of the story, we see that several extremely dangerous criminals are being transported back to their home country aboard a cargo ship. Among them is a notorious killer whose crimes have made him one of the most feared prisoners on board. A criminal named Park is the most dangerous of them all. He has murdered more than 30 women, and he shows absolutely no remorse for what he has done. Soon, he starts disrespecting Officer Lee, and Lee loses his temper and brutally beats him. The tension between the officers and the inmates is already starting to boil over inside the ship. Meanwhile, we see Officer David at police headquarters, briefing everyone on their assignments. After that, all of the criminals are moved into separate holding cells, with one guard assigned to each prisoner. Then, Lee explains the rules and regulations aboard the ship. The inmates immediately push back against him, but one prisoner named Tom remains completely calm. While the others react aggressively, Tom's silence makes him stand out from the rest. There are also several female inmates on board, all of them highly dangerous criminals. One of them is named Jenny. She is accused of murdering her husband as well as his parents. The responsibility of monitoring the female inmates falls to Officer Mary and Dr. Max. Transporting criminals this dangerous across such a long distance almost guarantees that something will go wrong. That is exactly why Dr. Max was assigned to this mission in the first place. A nurse named Ella is also on board. While they are checking their supplies together, Dr. Max secretly steals an injection from a box of medication. Meanwhile, a group of cooks is busy preparing food in the ship's galley. At the same time, Dr. Max takes the stolen medication and heads to the engine room. What is happening behind the scenes is far more important than anyone realizes. That is when it is revealed that Dr. Max has been given a mission to inject Alpha, the most dangerous criminal aboard the ship. The purpose of the injection is to keep Alpha unconscious for the entire voyage. However, no one knows where Alpha is being held except Officer David, who is monitoring everything from police headquarters. Around the same time, David reviews classified files and discovers that Alpha was once in the military. While David uncovers Alpha's past, events aboard the ship are already beginning to spiral out of control. Later that night, the cunning Park pulls a hidden wire from inside his jumpsuit and uses it to unlock his handcuffs. He then passes the wire to another inmate so he can free himself as well. Suddenly, it is revealed that the cooks working in the galley are actually Park's followers. They murdered the real cooks and boarded the ship disguised as them. The escape plan has been in motion much longer than anyone aboard realizes. When a police officer comes to inspect Park's cell, Park and his accomplice kill him and hide his body inside a freezer. After that, Park's men storm the control room and kill the officers stationed there. They also cut all communication lines so Officer Lee cannot contact police headquarters. Before long, Lee discovers that something is seriously wrong aboard the ship and quickly gathers his team, including Mary. By now, the situation is no longer a security breach, it is a full-scale takeover. When they reach the control room, Park's men suddenly attack them. A fierce gunfight breaks out, but Lee and Mary manage to eliminate all of Park's attackers. At that moment, Mary finds a crew member who is taking his final breaths. She asks how they can contact police headquarters in an emergency, and the man tells her that they can use the satellite phone located in the engine room. That single piece of information immediately becomes their only hope of calling for help. Meanwhile, Park has already released all of the remaining inmates. However, Tom warns him that hijacking the ship will accomplish nothing, and that his actions will only put everyone in even greater danger. Unlike the others, Tom can already see the disaster that is about to unfold, but Park refuses to listen and decides to kill every officer and seize complete control of the ship. Elsewhere, Dr. Max locks himself inside a room with Nurse Ella because he does not want to end up dead at Park's hands. When Park reaches the engine room, he sees a criminal named Gian stuffing the bodies of police officers into a freezer. What they do not realize is that a leaking pipe runs through the engine room. A small leak is about to trigger something far more terrifying than any of them expect. Blood drips through the pipe and lands directly on Alpha's face. Suddenly, his eyes open and he begins trying to break free. At the same time, Officer Lee and his team arrive at the inmates' cells to capture the escaped criminals. They are stunned to discover that many officers have already been killed and every inmate has escaped. Lee immediately realizes that Park and his men will likely try to destroy the satellite phone in the engine room. Because of that, he and his team rush there without wasting another second. Now both sides are heading toward the same destination, and a deadly collision is becoming unavoidable. Meanwhile, Park is in the engine room trying to destroy the satellite phone. With communications cut off, nobody outside the ship can see the nightmare unfolding inside. He then begins killing the crew members one by one. Just as he is about to murder the last remaining crew member, Officer Lee and his team arrive at the scene. A brutal fight immediately breaks out. At the same time, Alpha, the most dangerous criminal aboard the ship, has finally broken free and makes his way to the engine room. What arrives next is far worse than anything Park or the officers were prepared for. Alpha is blind, but he can sense people through their body heat. His sense of smell is incredibly sharp, and he is far stronger and faster than any ordinary human being. The moment Park sees Alpha, he tries to run, but Alpha catches him instantly and kills Park's men right in front of him. Then Alpha turns toward Park and kills him with a single strike. Seeing this, the remaining survivors immediately flee the area. They would never have escaped otherwise, otherwise, so Tom stays behind and distracts Alpha. Tom risks his own life, giving everyone else a chance to get away. So that the others can escape, Tom keeps Alpha occupied. Every second Tom buys becomes another second of survival for the remaining people aboard the ship. Eventually, the group escapes through a small door and manages to shut it before Alpha can reach them. Meanwhile, back at police headquarters, Officer David is using satellite imagery to figure out what is happening aboard the ship. When he learns that all of the criminals have escaped, he is completely... Just then, he receives a call from a man known as the Director, who tells him everything that has happened on the vessel. The deeper David looks into the situation, the stranger the entire operation begins to seem. At that moment, we notice a strange number marked on the Director's chest, and the exact same number is also marked on Alpha's body. Back on the ship, 2 surviving crew members attempt to escape using a lifeboat, but Alpha finds them and brutally kills both of them. Nurse Ella witnesses the entire scene through a window. Alpha soon notices her presence as well and strangles her. When Dr. Max sees what happens, he and runs away. Eventually, he encounters Officer Lee and several of his companions. When Lee threatens him, Dr. Max finally confesses that he was paid to inject Alpha with a sedative. For the first time, pieces of the mystery finally begin falling into place. However, Dr. Max has no idea how Alpha woke up in the first place. Even after the confession, the biggest question still remains unanswered. Lee tells Mary and the others to find a secure place to hide, then sets out to search for the remaining survivors. Meanwhile, the criminal Gian wanders into Jenny's room. After killing the guard stationed there, he frees Jenny and the other inmates. But only moments later, Alpha appears there as well and launches a deadly attack. No matter where they run, Alpha always seems to be one step behind them. The group barely manages to save themselves by rushing into an elevator. Alpha immediately chases after them and climbs onto the top of the elevator. When Officer Lee sees what is happening, he runs to protect the prisoners from Alpha's rampage. But suddenly, the elevator crashes straight down, crushing Gian to death. Lee assumes Alpha must have died as well, but Alpha somehow survives. Soon after, Lee hides Jenny inside a freezer and stays behind to face Alpha alone. Lee manages to break one of Alpha's arms, but even that is not enough. He cannot withstand Alpha's overwhelming strength and is ultimately killed. Afterward, Alpha enters the freezer and Jenny immediately drops to the floor in... Now Jenny is completely alone, trapped in the same place as the monster hunting everyone aboard the ship. Jenny immediately drops to the floor and pretends to be dead. The freezing temperature inside the freezer becomes the only thing keeping her alive. Fortunately, because of the extreme cold, Alpha cannot detect that she is still alive, and he quietly leaves the area. Meanwhile, Tom and the others arrive at the room where Alpha had been imprisoned. There, they discover several documents related to Alpha. As they go through the files, they learn that Alpha is far older than he should be. In reality, he should not even be alive anymore. The truth behind Alpha is far more disturbing than anyone expected. It turns out that he was a soldier during World War II in 1943. During the war, Japanese forces captured him and held him prisoner. Afterward, they subjected him to a series of experiments. Their goal was to create an army of superhuman soldiers for combat. Dr. Max digs deeper into the records and discovers that Alpha possesses multiple superhuman abilities. He is far stronger and faster than an ordinary person, and he will never grow old. After that, the story shifts back to 1943, where Japanese scientists are celebrating the success of their superhuman experiment. But that celebration is about to become one of the bloodiest moments in the entire story. Suddenly, Alpha rises to his feet and brutally kills everyone in the facility. The very experiment they believed they had controlled becomes completely unstoppable. Meanwhile, Officer David leaves police headquarters and heads toward the ship with a special tactical team. The members of this team have taken a specialized injection designed to help them withstand Alpha's abilities. After arriving on the ship, they encounter Jenny. She begs David for help, but his only objective is to kill Alpha. He has no interest in saving anyone else. To David, every survivor is expendable as long as the mission is completed. Without hesitation, he shoots Jenny. After that, he kills Tom's companions and eventually comes face to face with Tom himself. It is then revealed that David and Tom already know each other. Tom has the same strange number on his chest that Alpha has on his body. The story then reveals that years earlier, David's organization kidnapped numerous people and conducted forced experiments on them. Most of the experiments failed, but one person survived. That lone survivor was Tom. This means the experiment performed on him was successful. However, he escaped David's control and started a completely new life. What seemed like a random prisoner is actually connected to the entire conspiracy. Sometime later, Tom gets married and has a young son. For a brief period, he finally experiences the normal life that was stolen from him, but David eventually learns that Tom is still alive and relentlessly hunts him down. One day, David breaks into Tom's home and murders his wife and son. The tragedy leaves Tom completely devastated. The trauma is so severe that he adopts a criminal identity, waiting for the opportunity to take revenge on David. Everything Tom has done since then has been leading to this exact moment. Just then, Alpha appears and attacks both David and Tom. David injects himself with a special serum to enhance his abilities and fight Alpha. Before long, he manages to defeat Alpha Alpha and then turns his attention to Tom. Smiling, David reminds Tom how he murdered his young child. Enraged, Tom attacks David, throws him into the ocean, and jumps in after him. The next day, we see a man known as the director continuing the old experiments on a remote island. A child is then revealed, and it turns out to be Tom's son. In reality, David never killed him. Because the boy possessed the same superhuman abilities as Tom, David secretly delivered him to the director instead. The child Tom believed was dead has been part of the experiment all along. It is then revealed that the director was also part of the original 1943 experiment. The conspiracy reaches much deeper into history than anyone ever imagined. Both Alpha and the director gained superhuman abilities through those experiments. The director's goal is to continue creating superhumans by experimenting on children and building an entirely new world. Meanwhile, after jumping into the ocean, Tom survives and eventually reaches shore. What began as a fight for survival has now become a mission for revenge. Tom is now fully prepared to destroy the secret organization responsible for his family's suffering and death. And with the truth finally exposed, a far bigger battle is only beginning.
The wounds fade, the memories don't, and sometimes the scariest thing isn't what happened, it's living with it afterward.
If stories like this stay with you long after they end, subscribe to RAFSAT Core, because some stories finish on screen, but never really leave your mind.